Next event on the track, the first of 3 sections of the men's 4x400 relay. It's the only event remaining on the program. USC with the NCAA meet record. Back when Michael Norman and Ry Benjamin were on their team. Ran that at College Station at the old indoor facility at Texas A&M. A&M has the NCAA lead at 3:02:21. There's Baylor, traditionally a powerhouse in the 4x400. They'll start out of lane 5, the Big 12 champions. I call it the section races. You can win the title from any of these 3 sections, but the best teams in the country are seated in the 3rd and final section.
There's BYU. Go back to the Big 12 championship. It was a big effort from Nathaniel Ezekiel on the final leg to bring home that victory for the Baylor Bears.
There are the lane assignments. BYU starting in lane 3, then Mississippi State in 4, Baylor, and then Purdue on the outside in lane 6. The slowest time, seed time to get into this meet was 3:05:09 by Mississippi State. And like the Open 400, they will stay in their lanes through 2 turns, then break for the pole.
BYU's lead leg, Eli Hazlitt, he's got 46 flat in the 400 this season. There you see him take the lead. He'll be the first one to get to the pole.
And he gets there cleanly. For Mississippi State, it's Christian Barker. For Baylor, Abbas Ali, the freshman. And for Purdue, Cameron Miller. Eli Hazlitt holding position for the Cougars. First exchange coming up. It's going to be close. BYU passes first. Trey Jackson for the Cougars. For Mississippi State, this is Cyrus Jacobs. For Baylor, Dylan Bedell. And now Purdue well back, Connor Tchaikovsky for the Boilermakers.
Well, BYU was 4th at the Big 12 championship, so you kind of expect Baylor to be up on them just a little bit, but BYU doing a really good job at this point.
Baylor will anchor Nathaniel Ezekiel, the runner-up in the 400. Now it's getting tight as they're getting ready to exchange for the second time. And Mississippi State gets the stick off first. Alfonso Hale Jr. for the Bulldogs, but now back into the lead. BYU's Ty Ostrich, the sophomore. And for Baylor, trying to set up Nathaniel Ezekiel, it's DeMar Francis.
Cyrus Jacobs for the Mississippi State Bulldogs there, 46 flat on that second leg.
BYU, Mississippi State, Baylor. And Mississippi State's Alfonso Hale, I should say, Jr., trying to make the move, but he has to go out into lane 2, run some extra distance, some extra effort, and BYU passes first. For them, it is Josh Taylor on anchor for Mississippi State. And that is not Nathaniel Ezekiel for Baylor. He said, "Oh no, I'm not going to." For Mississippi State, Sherman Hawkins. So Ezekiel was slated to anchor for the Bears. Maybe just didn't recover as well as he hoped to after that 400. It was a tough-fought 400 meters he ran. Here it comes down to the finish. This will be establishing the time to beat. It's going to be Mississippi State taking the first section, 3:05:39 officially. So that's just 0.3 of a second slower than their seed time. So they ran close to their season best in establishing the time to beat from this Section 1 race.
Well, BYU set the pace the entire way. They would be able to run this race on the inside. They never gave up that inside position. 8 laps around this track, and BYU was on the inside the entire time. Nice, clean handoffs all the way, and we've seen quite a bit of bumping and shoving in some of the distance races, and certainly at the conference races in the 4x400 meter relay. We'll tell you a little bit about that as we get into the heats. But here we see them come to the finish. Josh Taylor versus Sherman Hawkins, the junior from Mississippi State, and it would be the Bulldogs who came away with the victory.
So the time that section 2 and 3 will shoot for, 3:05:39, established by Mississippi State. BYU second, Baylor third in that first section. Section 2 of the 4x400 relay on the track. USC has the meet record. Ran that at College Station at the old indoor facility at Texas A&M. And Texas A&M has the fastest time in the country this year at 3:02:21. In this heat, Texas Tech will start in lane 3, Virginia Tech in 4, Arizona State in 5, and Georgia outside in lane 6. Arizona State, the defending champions from last year.
Well, they go with Jaden Davis, who ran the open 400 meters. We saw him in that first heat of the 400 meters. He finished 4th in the open, but the sophomore will lead things off for the Sun Devil. There's Virginia Tech. No Judson Lincoln for Virginia Tech as I look at the lineup. He'd been struggling with injuries most of this indoor season. ACC runner-up. On your mark. And the winner of the 400 meters will lead off for Georgia, Will Floyd, after that fantastic quarter mile against Ezekiel Elliott. Or Nathaniel Ezekiel, excuse me. But he'll be on the outside. And a quick turnaround, Dwight, from the 400 to the 4x4.
And he fought hard in that 400 meter final to get the pole position. He started in lane 6 in that open 400 and worked very hard to get the pole position, which made a huge difference in the race. Virginia Tech's Kaleje Tillman is going for it in lane 4. Jonathan Crawford for Texas Tech. And it's going to be Crawford getting the break. But no contact at that break. Will Floyd on the outside of lane 1. Making the pass on the turn. Here comes Jaden Davis, I should say. Georgia will pass first. Georgia, Arizona State, Texas Tech. For Georgia, Shamar Chambers. For the Sun Devils, Trevin Moyer. For Virginia Tech, this is Samuel Herrenton. And for Texas Tech, Josh Bohr.
Virginia Tech and Texas Tech bumping just a little bit. We'll go back to that first leg by Will Floyd, 46.5. So he was showing some signs of fatigue in that first leg for Georgia.
Now Texas Tech getting going, starting to close the gap to second place. Josh Bohr doing a great job for the Red Raiders. Georgia will pass first. Zy Ricks, the freshman. For Arizona State, Dayton Carlson. And for Texas Tech, George Garcia. Garcia into second for the Red Raiders. .305.39, the time to beat established in the first section. Georgia with a pretty healthy lead at this point, probably 6 or 7 meters. Arizona State now coming back, getting ready to make the final exchange. Georgia will pass first. Irvin Pearson, another freshman for the Bulldogs. For Texas Tech, Deshaun Boyce. For Arizona State, the defending champions, Malik Franklin, also a freshman.
And just think about this, Lara. The Georgia Bulldogs, Will Sumner leaves school early. He goes pro. Christopher Morales-Williams, he only spends 1 year with the Bulldogs. Think about the squad they would have been able to put together had a couple of guys just not turned pro and still been in college.
Coach Carroll just keeps finding them, right? Not only finding them, but also developing them. And we've got a finish on our hands right here.
Georgia wins the second section and establishes the new time to beat, 2 seconds plus better than Section 1. A school record for the Bulldogs, 3:03.44. And that is almost a second faster than their seed time coming in. So a formidable time set down by the Georgia Bulldogs. Here are the exchanges.
Well, and Georgia has put together some outstanding 4x4 teams. And for these guys to step on the track and break a school record is really quite an accomplishment. Zy Ricks on that third leg, he had an outstanding run. And another freshman, Irvin Pearsall, on that fourth leg, who would bring it home for the Bulldogs. Look at the trust that Coach Carroll has in 2 youngsters to go third and final leg to bring this thing home for Georgia.
Yeah, I'm betting that school record had like Elijah Godwin on it, maybe Matt Bowling.
Yep.
A few other really prominent 400-meter runners. Georgia setting the time to beat for the Section 3 seeded section, 3:03.44 school record. Texas Tech comes all the way back and gets second in that heat, 3:03.77. Here are the records. USC holds the meet record, set in College Station in 2018 with Ry Benjamin and Michael Norman on that team. And then Texas A&M, they have the fastest time in the country this year. There is USC. They will start in lane number 3.
Well, I think William Jones, who's leading off here, he was the guy that they missed the most last year at the conference meet, the national championship meet. They were 7th last year in this 4x4, but we've got to be careful. They were disqualified in the Big Ten championship meet when they had a shoulder bump with the champion Purdue. And there is Arkansas. Stephen McElroy has been leading off all season long here for the Razorback. And there's Ahmad Robinson. He'll lead off for the Texas A&M Aggies. He led off at the SEC championships as well. Kind of played cat and mouse with a couple of guys in that race, but Texas A&M ultimately was able to come away with the victory at the SEC championships. And there's Florida Gators. Haven't said much about them at these championships. A lot of athletes graduated through. They've been struggling with some injuries, but as a point of pride, here they are in the 4x400 meter relay.
Come in with the second fastest seed time, just so that you know, the difference between Arkansas and Southern Cal on seed times just 6/100ths of a second, and USC ran their time at altitude in Albuquerque. So USC has some breathing room. They don't have to win it. 4-point lead going in here. From the inside, USC, then Arkansas, Texas A&M, fastest team in the country, and then Florida on the outside.
Well, William Jones is an athlete there for USC on the inside in the dark uniform. He's a guy who likes to build momentum through a 400 meters. Takes him a little while to get going, but you cannot wait in an indoor 400 meters. You're going to get too far behind it. Passing one person, sometimes not such an issue. Oh, and then we got bumping immediately, and that was Ahmad Robinson and Stephen McElroy who went at it. Well, Arkansas and Texas A&M, and Arkansas came out on the bad end of the stick on that one.
That's disastrous for Arkansas, as Ahmad Robinson trying to put some distance between himself and Florida and USC. Texas A&M will pass first from Robinson to Hussam Hatib. But in hot pursuit, USC, Garrett Kaland, who we saw in the open 400. And for Florida, Ashton Schwartzman.
Well, we saw Callan. We did see Callan in the 200 meters. He gets off to a quick start, and as a coach, you're just like, he's back. Find your tempo.
Florida now into the lead with a little bumping there. It's always tough to pass on the curve. You got to make it decisive. And USC back into the lead, going down the backstretch.
Well, it's not always necessary to be sharing that same lane as well. And here in the finals, in the last race of the day, you've just got to be careful. Get the baton around. That's first and foremost.
And A&M passes first. Antoine Norquilla from South Africa now in the lead for the Aggies. Again, this is a point of pride for the team from College Station. That fastest time in the country this year. Multiple 4x400 national championship trophies over the years. For USC, this is Jacob Andrews. And for Florida, Malik Smith-Band. And the outgoing runner anchors weren't even on the track, except for Texas A&M. Johnny Blockberger of USC gets into first place. He had to come from off the track as he saw his teammate coming down the last 50 meters. They were seeing that Arkansas was just sort of jogging it in, didn't think there was another lap. They thought there was another lap left to run. Johnny Blockberger for USC. And for Texas A&M, it's Kamar Farquharson.
Well, and I was slightly confused as well because I saw those athletes taking the last turn, heading for home, and there was nobody out there to receive those batons as Johnny Blockberger stumbles just a little bit. That's an official's mistake. They needed to herd those athletes out there in position as USC is going to take the victory in this heat, but they're not going to win the 4x4 championship.
So Georgia and Texas Tech and Arizona State all running faster than USC did, but it's really of no matter because Arkansas will get no points in the 4x400 after that collision and a dropped baton early in this final section. Wait a few minutes to get the results combined, but Georgia was leading with 3:03.44. Three teams under 3:04, and USC just barely broke 3:05. All right, so let's take a look at the contact, and we'll have to wait to see if there's any trouble, if there's a card of any kind or a protest of any kind. But look at this, Ahmad Robinson leaning into Stephen McElroy for the pole position. And TV takes the speed out of everything. You do not realize how fast these guys are running.
Well, and Ahmad Robinson...
And then watch this.
Yeah, here we go. It's like, where are the runners? The officials need to parade them out. Johnny Blockberger was not in position, but I think it was because Arkansas was so far behind, it threw everybody off just a little bit.
Let's watch it at normal speed. There's Ahmad Robinson with the glasses. He thinks he has the pole cleanly. Maybe he did, maybe he didn't. We'll have to see what the officials say. They end up finishing second in that section, running much slower than normal for Texas A&M at a championship. You see Coach Quincy Watts celebrating. Maybe he knows something we aren't absolutely certain of. If they pull this off, it's the first time they win the indoor NCAA title since 1972. So there are the combined results. The teams from the second section, Georgia, Texas Tech, and Arizona State, take the top three spots. Then USC. Fourth place is worth 5 points, but Arkansas got no points. So if those results stand, USC has won the men's team title here in Virginia Beach.
Well, as we look at the 4x4, Dwight, Georgia wins from the second section and not the third, so very interesting.
There were a couple of problems. There's Ahmad Robinson with the glasses from Texas A&M. He thinks he's got the pole. Stephen McElroy of Arkansas says, well, I'm not sure you do. They collide. And McElroy goes into the infield, drops the baton, and that puts Arkansas out of the race. So they're just kind of jogging, and the officials don't realize that the incoming runners on the third leg are incoming, and they don't put USC and Florida's anchor legs on the track until it looked like it was a little too late. Certainly didn't help USC. So those are the two things they're talking about. Johnny Blockberger ended up anchoring USC to a fourth place finish overall. So John's down on the infield, and he is privy to more information than we are up here in the booth. Go, John.
So, Dwight, I spoke with Johnny Blockberger, who said that their anchor legs were actually being held up by the official as they came through, and as he saw his guy, he could tell he was swaying his head looking for him. They just ran past the official, who was confused, as you said correctly. The Arkansas, at the speed where they were running, they thought they were out front, and they got confused. But Johnny said, finally, I just ignored her trying to hold me back, and I found a sliver, and I just went and got on the track and took off. So because of that confusion, even if they had been, he was watching the lap counter. He said it went from 3 to 2, and I'm like, 2, that's when I go. And finally, he got out of there, and everybody's saying, wow, that could have been embarrassing for SC. Could have been super embarrassing for the NCAA if that's how this thing turns out. As it is, he got on there. They think USC right now is okay. They will sort out who's taking second, third, and fourth in this meet a little later. It looks like the Trojans will have their first win in this meet since '72, but sometimes you got to overcome the people in charge to go ahead and get on the track and make your move. USC finally gets to stick around.
Well, a little bit surprisingly, that is the Arkansas men's 4x400 relay warming up in anticipation of getting a ruling that they will rerun the race by themselves. Dan, I don't think I've ever seen anything like this.
I was going to say there's a first time for everything. A rerun. We certainly saw the women in the 4x100 meter relay in Rio, but that was a different race completely. But yeah, Dwight, there's a first time for everything. Is it possible that they could get a rerun? Maybe. Chris Bucknam's fighting for his team, but it's an unfortunate incident. I think Arkansas is just they were in the wrong place at the wrong time. They don't get to complete that race. They may not score any points in the 4x4.
All right, we'll step aside and hopefully have a decision soon when we come back.
Officials made their day. We're going to respect the officials' decision. Okay, appreciate how hard everybody competed. We're going to congratulate SC and the other teams, and we're going to move on to the outdoor season. But hey, it was a great fight. We gave it our best shot. We're always going to advocate on our behalf the best we can. It was an unfortunate situation. The meet was right there with us. I mean, it was going to happen. We had a great shot at it, but didn't happen. Didn't come to fruition. So it wasn't the only reason, right? There are other things. There are other ways we could have got some points. So we'll respect the officials, understand that we're on the podium, and we're going to move on to the outdoor season. All right? Okay. Bring it in. We're going to get our fourth place trophy, and we're going to congratulate those guys. Hogs on 3. 1, 2, 3. Hogs!